Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello, Billy Ho here. 2023 Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass, Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. A huge fifth major tournament coming up. We're going to do the DraftKings show. But before we get started and I get David in here, the DFS chef, I am going to ask five things. One, two, three, four, five. And we all know what they are. If you've been listening to me recently, it is one, hit that subscribe button. Number two, smash that like. I'm starting to hit them likes so I can start getting more YouTube followers and all that good stuff. So, three preview article coming together. I got some updates we're going to go over in just a second. DraftKings contest, 75 members. So, plenty of spots left. We're going to try to fill it. But, we'll just get as many as we can because we know it's going to run. Join the Discord. Links everywhere. So check that out. And, updates. Here we go. All right. My internet went out briefly last night. So I switched over and started watching some cable television. Yes, I do have cable television. And that is weird for most, but at least it gave me a chance to watch a little golf channel. So I got to hear the following things. The course, interviews. I think they interviewed Adam Hadwin, but fairways playing very soft with little rollout. But this is just, it was just Monday. So there's Tuesday, Wednesday, plenty of time. The fairway's probably going to dry out more and there'll probably be a little bit more run out by the time the tournament gets going. But anyway, fairways are going to be crucial because this is what they said about the rough. It is tall and it is lush, 3.5 to 4 inches, and it looked tall. Some of the shots they had in the cameras looked very tall. So they didn't say whether or not they were going to cut it down any if it grows a lot. How Florida's sunny, warm temperatures, grass grows, but they haven't had any rain since I think Saturday. And who knows what it's going to do there. But as of right now, the greens are actually soft and receptive. They may dry out a little bit more, but they actually have that sub air system there like they do at Augusta. So they can manipulate the greens pretty much any way they want to. And they are going to get it fast. They are talking 13 plus on the stem, like 13, 13 and a half. So it's going to be fast, but I don't know about firm. So they can still get these greens fast, but they can still be somewhat receptive, especially in the AM. So keep that in mind as we already have tee times out, which is great. So we're going to talk about that with David and some other stuff. So weather, AM wind on Wednesday. So no real problem. I just wanted to mention that because we know weather can move forward or it can back up. It's just a predictive outtake. So the wind could be PM Wednesday by tomorrow. Then it could be late Wednesday night. Who knows how it's gonna play out. I'm just saying that it's minor possibility that it spills over into Thursday AM, but I'm not predicting that. I don't think that's going to happen. I just wanted to let you guys know. And the other thing is PM rain Friday looked pretty significant. So we're going to keep an eye on that as well. But it looks post round two. So after the players, like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. in that range. So I think it's going to be well clear of round two. So basically, it could just soften up the course real good. I don't think it's going to create any issues. Lift clean in place for round three might be a possibility. So, Billy Ho is the lift clean in place whisperer on that matter. So, other than that, welcome to the DraftKings show, and I'm going to bring in David. So, let's start the show. All right, I'm here with David, the DFS chef, as promised. So what's up, Dave? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, coming off a solid week. Not the greatest week at API, but solid.
Could have been
Uh,
better.
I was definitely rooting for Rory. I put a pre-bet in before the tournament started on Rory because I had an odds boost, but I did put a live bet in on Kitayama. Uh,
Yeah.
at, I still got him at 11-1 on Sunday. So,
Oh,
you
you
know,
did get him. Okay, well that's pretty good actually, because
I jumped on that to definitely salvage something, but I was still rooting for Rory, and
yeah,
it came close.
yeah, I know it. And I needed Hovland, and he broke my heart on 16. Man, he was sitting right out in the middle of the fairway and made the same damn mistake he made on 15. I posted it in the Discord. He had a 9-iron from 170 yards on 15, and he hit it bad. He tried to swing too hard or something. He had to pull the club away, and he got away with it. And that's what the announcer said. He got away with it. Well, he rips one out in the fairway on 16, and he's 178 out. And no, I mean, this is just a no-brainer on in two, or at least around the green in two. And he takes out the same 9-iron, and he makes a terrible swing. It's not even close. Goes in the water. Of course, he proceeds to make bogey, drops me out of the money in the Billy Ho contest, and drops me out of the money in, or not really all the money, but the Albatross. I finished up pretty high in. I could have finished up a lot higher, but the Kitayama win gave me a pretty high finish in that little cheesy 3-putt dollar contest. So at least I made a little money back there, but it could have been a lot better. But anyway, we are going to get into this week's tournament. We're going to talk a little bit of. I'm going to talk a little bit about the article updates, and then we're going to talk tee times because we got tee times this week. So let's do it. Okay, here's the article. It's coming together. I got a few things. I've started putting the preview and picks in the shows here so you can click more easily and watch videos or listen to them, whatever you want to do. But their updates is actually, I mentioned it in the intro. And David, I actually watched a little golf channel last night and got some info. They interviewed Adam Hadwin. They talked about fairways, rough, and greens. Fairways are playing pretty soft right now. A little bit, not much rollout. So fairways are going to be crucial because that rough is up to about 3.5 to 4 inches. And Adam Hadwin said, I'm not sure if they're going to cut it or not. So it could be some serious problems if you're not in the fairway. Normally on Pete Dye courses, you can get away with you don't necessarily have to be in the fairway. You just need to have the right angle in. But if you're not in the fairway and you're in 3.5, 4-inch rough, you're in trouble. And as of yesterday, the greens were kind of soft and receptive on approach, but fast. They want to get these things 13, 13.5 on the stem. And they did mention they have that sub-air system. So even if the rain comes Friday, like it looks like it will, they can dry it out. They can water it and they then dry it out. They can basically manipulate it any way they want to. So the next thing we want to do is check out the cheat sheet. Okay, this is I like Golf Week. I mean, there's a couple of different because I like to copy and paste into an Excel spreadsheet, and that way I can separate the first tees and the 10th tees, and so I can get an idea of what we're looking at. And I actually printed those out, so I've got copies myself. So if you can see this, we're just looking at 1 and 10. This is the first tee Thursday, AM, PM, and then 10th tee, AM, PM. So do you wave stack or in general, or do you only do that if there's weather involved?
Yeah, I mean, for my main builds, I rarely do it. I did it last year here where we had what everyone in the industry was saying was going to be an advantage, and then play was halted, and it completely flip-flopped everything. That was the one time in all the years I've been doing DFS golf, that's the one time I actually set my main builds up to a wave stack, and it bit me in the ass.
It bit everybody, yeah.
Yeah. So typically I do not wave stack my main lineups. I will look at it for showdowns specifically. I did use it last week as a tiebreaker. So if I had two guys that I was on the fence with, and it was virtually a coin flip play for me, I did look at it last week as a tiebreaker, and I went with the PM AM, Thursday Friday as the tiebreaker. So that definitely did come into play a little bit last week, and I would once again maybe use it as a tiebreaker if there is a specific wave advantage.
Okay, cool. I'm the same way, and this is probably not the best way to go about it, but it's just a brief discussion, just opinions. Actually, when I watch, and I know you watch the Fantasy Golf Degenerates and the man Tyler Tambolini, he always likes, just as a general food for thought, PM AM, because the guys can go out in the PM wave and play and score or whatever, but they come back in the AM and they don't know what the cut line is going to be, so they can just go out and play golf, and that way they're not sweating it out in the afternoon, knowing that they have to hit a certain number. They just do the best they can or whatever, which is kind of interesting. And I'm actually looking at the AM PM, or I mean PM AM wave myself. And sometimes the best players just land, or your favorite players just land in the wave you want them in anyway. So then you can start like say PM AM going off number one. We've got guys like Jason Day, Victor Hovland, Will Zalatoris, Kitayama, Xander, Homa, JT, Spieth, Cam Young, Sam Burns, Keegan Bradley. I mean, there's a ton of guys. So what we'll do is we're going to jump into it like we always do. We're going to hit up the cheat sheet over here for Rick Run Good. Shout out, Rick. And I'll have you kick us off, Dave, and we'll do 9K and up. And just give us maybe just a quick stat profile, what you're looking for, and then get us going.
Yeah. I mean, again, each and every week, we always are going to talk strokes gained approach, obviously. That's going to be a huge factor this week. I was reading that you will most likely see a good amount of guys clubbing down here this week. Like you mentioned, with that rough, it is playing a little soft right now, but that could change. But if it is playing soft, that should mean that guys are hitting fairways. And
just real quick, Dave. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mentioned in the first portion of the show before you came on, there Wednesday AM is going to be windy, like 20-mile-an-hour winds, which won't affect play obviously on Thursday, but you talked about drying the course out, so that just kind of triggered me in the head. Is if there's 20-mile-an-hour winds on Wednesday, that's going to help dry the course out. So go ahead, man.
Exactly. So, approach, I am looking at strokes gained off the tee because just like you, I always mention Rick is my guru. So I always look at that regression model that he has on his site. And off the tee is something that is coming into play. He specifically, and he doesn't really mention this that often, he usually just goes into his course key stats, but he doesn't really go into detail, especially if people watch his preview videos. It's rare that he really goes into his correlated stats model. This week, he actually really touched on that correlated stats model, and you pulled it up right now.
Yeah,
You can see what's coming. He kind of laid it out like a story almost. Par five scoring average, because a lot of those stats on that correlated kind of tie in together. So what do you want? He already mentioned it. You want ball strikers this week, guys that are going to be good with their long irons. I just mentioned birdie or better, par five scoring average you want to look at because eagles are up on that correlated model. Mm-hmm. So all of that I have in my model, and I have it weighed out. Again, we're in Florida. Florida swing equals carnage. Course history is kind of out the window. Mm-hmm. Everybody has missed the cut here. So course history, not looking at it so much because, again, anyone can miss this cut. So when we talk about carnage, we want bogey avoidance. I have that down there in my model this week. So looking at that, going into this 9K and up range, once again, just like I said last week, this upper echelon of golfers that are 10K plus, you can kind of make a case for any one of them. Xander, to me, as good of a golfer as he is going to get squeezed. I think I think he's priced up a little too high this week, and it already shows off that first look ownership projections, he is getting squeezed out. So obviously, if you really want to try and gain leverage on the field, you might take a chance on someone like Xander in a GPP. He hasn't been that good here, other than like 2018 when he was, I think, a T2. I think he's coming in with 3 straight missed cuts in this event. Obviously, like we just mentioned, course history you can kind of overlook, especially last year when we had that so-called wave advantage. A lot of guys might have been on the wrong side of that, and they got axed out last year. So last year, you're really not looking at it. As hard as this is for me, but then again, Rahm's ownership is lower than Rory and Scheffler. So maybe I do flip it because originally when I looked at it, I was going to be like, I'm probably going to fade Rahm this week, and I'm going to probably go to Rory and Scotty out of those two guys. But now those guys are at least projecting over 20% right now, where Rahm's 15. So again, ownership leverage. Maybe you bypass Rory and Scotty and get the leverage with Rahm. For me, I'm looking at a lot of the guys in the 9K range, and at least first look ownership projection is showing Cantlay up there huge. Now, he's had a couple, like I think 21st and 23rd place finishes here, but he is also coming in with 3 straight missed cuts. I most likely am going to full fade Cantlay. And just like I always say, if Luke List burns me, he burns me. I'm taking that approach this week. If Cantlay burns me, he burns me. But at 20-something percent projected ownership right now, I'm going to take that chance, and I'm going to fade Cantlay this week. I'm starting at least most of my cash builds this week. I'm starting with Max Homa once again. He's playing just elite golf right now. I thought for a second that he was going to find himself up in the mix, and then he kind of faded on Saturday. He started off like a house of fire and then just kind of faded. But for cash, I think he's someone that's very safe. Even though I said anyone can miss the cut, I do think Homa is a relatively safe play for cash. And then we get into the kind of question marks. I'm probably going to full fade Morikawa. But again, you can probably gain ownership leverage in GPPs if you take a chance with Morikawa. I will have some JT, even though he can be a bit erratic off the tee, from time to time. I'm still going to take the chance with JT. He does have good course history here. He has won it here. He was one person that absolutely impressed the hell out of me last year, because he did play in that bad wind last year, and he still, I think, shot even in that absolute carnage of the wind that he played last year. So he is a good wind player. If the wind does kick up, I can see him doing that once again. So JT will be someone I go to. And I mentioned it last week that eventually it's going to catch up to Sungjae. I didn't say it would have been last week. I said he was most likely safe to make the cut last week, which he did.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually like Sungjae at this course. I think he sets up better at this course than he actually sets up at Bay Hill. So Sungjae is probably going to be someone I'll look at in that 9K range. So for me, cash is going to definitely be Homa. I will have some JT and then Sungjae. The rest of these 9K players, I probably am going to fade.
All right. Well done. Yeah, I agree. I don't play cash anymore personally, but if you do, I think this is probably a good week to play cash, because a lot of these guys are going to miss the cut. So I would say normally a decent 5 of 6 would probably get you there this week. Now, the history, a lot of other tournaments since DraftKings started getting their pricing a little softer and people get more information and people get better, it's become, that's why I don't play cash anymore, because it's become increasingly difficult. And a lot of times when I play cash, my cash lineup is not, I'm not hitting dead on the min part of it. I'm up in the upper tier. So I figure I can get in a GPP and take a shot at winning big money and still get in the top 20% for the min cash. So that's kind of how my philosophy there is. But I can see I could definitely see cash this week. JT would probably be the first place I would start with cash, or at least you could do a Homa JT easy. I
Yeah,
think there.
which
And
I think,
you got me
is what
kind of.
Kenny.
Oh, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, which is I think Kenny's first two cash game cornerstones, I believe, were Homa and JT.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm actually I've got it queued up on my thing right here, and they got into this big blowout argument on the live shit, and then I had to fast forward it. So I just now got to stats and course, so I haven't gotten into the rest of that, but I could definitely see those two uh, being his first two choices. And you actually got me intrigued. I was on a full fade Rom train, but I'll have to deep dive into exactly what happened. I think he lost the driver a little bit. He made some mistakes. He really, I mean, after round one at API, he really kind of fell apart, struggling, and showed a human side of him, which is great because you can't go out and practically win every freaking golf tournament every week. Tiger Woods didn't even do that. Tiger Woods would T39 every now and then at an API. But then what happened the very next week? That some bitch would come back and beat your brains out. So Rahm is the type of guy that probably took that personally, probably went right to the grind. Probably going to be right around this. And I think you can, like you said, massive leverage. So I'm going to look into that. Rory was, I mean, obviously a good fit, but he's going to be highly owned. Rory and Scotty. I like Scotty this week. Actually, I think with course history not being relevant, his first two cracks are less than ideal. Xander, that T2 starting out, and then he hasn't seen the weekend since, is kind of interesting in that effect. But 12% ownership, and a pod that I watched made a very good point that these two prices right here, for some reason, get people tilted when they go 5 digits to 4 digits, and it's only $100. They see a 10,000 versus a 99, and it means something to them. I don't know why, but Cantlay, I don't know if I'm just feeling the oats of the Sunday run, which he was the reason, combined with the Hovland collapse, that I lost too, because he went out and fired that 65 and moved up to the leaderboard, and then Hovland started falling, which took away his placement points and gave Cantlay a bump in placement points. So that's what beat me in the Billy Ho as well. But I looked at his ball. His ball striking is fire right now, and when he wins tournaments, he's driving the ball insanely well. So I'm going to be willing to forgive the missed cuts. Obviously, he's never been really much of a Florida guy. I thought I picture him more of a bent grass kind of westy kind of coasty guy, and Memorial Tournament and whatnot, and Augusta. But he's actually got a pretty good record altogether on Pete Dye courses in general. So I'm actually going to do the opposite. So maybe one of us will come out okay. I'm going to play some Cantlay. So Morikawa, I'm in the same boat with you. I'm not 100% on. Finau, I'm not there with Finau. Probably still not there yet, but nothing wrong with him. I mean, absolutely, he gains off the tee. He's accurate with his driver. He can play Pete Dye courses. His stat profile works. And if you giving me 12% ownership, I think I'm down with that. If you dip into the A case, Victor Hovland is. I'm not going to hold a grudge against him. The man made multiple eagles, an ace. He scores DraftKings points like a freaking demon, and he makes a couple of mistakes on the back nine coming home Sunday. I'm not mad at that. The ninth place finish, I wonder if he didn't get a little bit of help with the waves. I don't know. You would think normally when I see this, we talked about it. Anybody that I see with a high finish, I'm assuming they got wave help, weather help, because it not only did it hurt Thursday because of the 4-hour delay Thursday, Then they had delay Friday, pushed everybody into Saturday. So people were finished their second round in a shitstorm Saturday too. So it was really, really the worst case scenario. George Clooney perfect storm shit, where people were just lost at sea. So I'm all right there with Victor. Willie Z, I might be on the fence on him again because I was really high on him, but the approach game let me down. So I don't know where we're at with the new kind of swing alteration with him. Uh, but going down the line a little bit, I mentioned Fitzpatrick is still dealing with the neck issue, and I think we kind of saw that. He played pretty well. Uh, so I'm gonna probably give him a look. See, I mean, these are some good ownership prices in this mid 8Ks. Cam Young is looking pretty good to me too. I think his miscut last year, obviously, you can toss that. Super long off the tee, but the guy hits irons, like you said, when you need to lay up a little bit. He can hit a driving iron as far as a lot of people hit their drivers. So I think he could use his length to a big advantage here. So I'm digging that. Hatton is a plug and play. The pricing came out too soon. He's 8,300 once again. Sign me up. I don't care. He's actually even looking lower on than he was last week, which is insane to me. He almost won the golf tournament. He had a couple of missed putts down the stretch. Jason Day is massively owned, and he burned me last week. I faded just the ownership, and he got up there in the end. He almost missed the cut. He was really pushing the wrong direction, and then he went on a birdie run on the back nine Friday to get there. So Chris Kirk, you could bounce him back. He had a little bit of struggles, but he's got good history. And don't worry about me talking about everybody. I just kind of went on a rant there, but just you tell me who you like in the 8Ks, and you lead us on into 7.
Yeah, we're pretty much on the same place. Victor Hovland is going to be someone else that if you're playing cash, I think you stick him in there. Um, and you can see that based on his early ownership projections. I do like Cam Young as well. I think that the miscut last year, you can just toss that out the window. He's playing much better golf right now. We go Jason Day, Tyrrell Hatton. And I think the industry is pretty much going to be kind of in the same direction, especially if you're building cash. Because I built a lineup Sunday, literally right after API was over, because the pricing came out so early, and I had my stat model put in, and then obviously once Puerto Rico finished, I updated it with all the current form finishes. But when I was looking over this, I was on a lot of the same guys that Eric Polzing. If you haven't watched his preview video, I watched his preview video, and at the end, he always throws a sample lineup out there, and the sample lineup he threw out was the exact same lineup that I made Sunday.
Wow.
And I just went, okay, I guess there's cash. So if you want to watch Eric Polzing's preview video, people, go back and watch that, and you pretty much know my cash lineup if you're playing cash. But Tyrrell Hatton, Jason Day, and if you watch Rick's preview video already, there are 4 guys right now that are gaining over 2 strokes per round, raw strokes gained. 3 of them are the 10K plus guys, which is Rahm, Rory, and Scotty. Jason Day is number 4 right now, who's gaining over 2 strokes per round. And Rick already made mention of that, so I'll just make mention of it again. But as we go into the 7K range, I'm with you right there. You already mentioned Chris Kirk's name. Chris Kirk.
I did, didn't I?
Chris Kirk is someone that I think is in play this week as well. Tommy Fleetwood, probably a full fade for me. Where a lot of guys actually either stayed flat at the same price, or some guys even dropped down in pricing. If you look at Fleetwood's price last week versus this week, his price went up, which I don't get, because his history here isn't that great. His history at API was better than his history is here. So for me, Fleetwood most likely will be a full fade, and if he burns me, he burns me. I can live with that. we mentioned Corey Connors last week on the show.
Yeah.
We said he usually relies on his finishing position, but we both felt he was someone that you could play in cash last week, and I saw you played him in the Billy Ho. And
Yeah.
I'm right there again this week. We mentioned ball strikers. Well, what does Corey Connors do? He's one of the elite ball strikers on tour right now. So those three guys that are kind of bunched together, Keegan at 75, Connors at 74, Keith Mitchell at 74. Keith Mitchell, I mean, if you're running into it where your last guy in for cash is a choice of Connors or Mitchell, flip a coin, because I mean, virtually they're almost the same play.
Yeah.
I lean Connors a little bit more than Mitchell, only because of Connors' elite ball striking, but I don't think you go wrong with Mitchell either.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Fowler has been playing some great golf. Ricky's going to gain ownership this week. Um, and then we kind of fall into kind of a dead man's range, at least for me,
Yeah.
once you get under 74. Thomas Detry, obviously, I know Rick made point of this when he withdrew at Honda, and he was like a heavy chalk play at Honda and probably cost a lot of people at Honda. And then he comes right back last week and finishes in 24th. Well, he said he was sick at
Yeah.
Honda, which makes sense. He withdrew and he comes right back and comes up with a 24th place finish. He hasn't played here, which is kind of a setback,
Mm.
but with the way he is a ball striker, I do think Detry's in play. But other than that, I probably am sticking with a very solid core in that 7K range, and most of these other guys most likely won't be in builds. I forgot to mention Siwoo. Siwoo is obviously a
Oh
Pete
yeah.
Dye specialist. He's a Pete Dye specialist. He's won this thing before, so Siwoo probably will be making some builds for me as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I was looking into Siwoo. I wanted to make sure that I noted him as well because if you watch Siwoo enough, he doesn't really need any kind of form to come in and pop. But he did make the cut and finish 39th last week, and he has actually been. I mean, other than the missed cut at Genesis, I mean he's been pretty solid. He's got a win this year in the fall. Or no, Sony actually wasn't it? So I do like Siwoo, and I probably will have some, but he is a volatile golfer. He's all or none. So he'll start to get into DGAF mode if he's not playing well. I normally don't like playing Brian Harmon very much, but if he's going to be shout out to all our weed smokers, 420 4.2% ownership. Uh, with a third place and an eighth place, in on here, and of course he can compete on where you don't have to hit it a mile when you can be, hit 70%. That was one thing I wanted to mention. Greens and regulation are huge this week. 5,500 square foot greens, not huge greens. So that's important. But he's accurate, nearly 70% fairways. And I think he could pop. He's missed a couple of cuts. If nobody's going to play, chalk Brian Harmon is a bad idea, but sub 5% Brian Harmon, I'm down. I'm with you with Corey Connors, same way. He made some mistakes. These guys with their, and then they were all 9 irons. He was on, I think it was 18. And he'd been fading the ball to the right all day too. They announcers mentioned it. He came into 18, I think it was Saturday, after playing pretty well, or one of the holes where there was water to the right, and he clubs down 9 iron from 175 yards or something, water. Well, he hit the rocks and then it bounced in the rocks, and he was a penalty. So I just don't understand these guys with their mistaken clubs. But anyway, I'm not a professional golfer. Hollywood Hoagie, talk about ball striking. This guy, and then the putting is volatile, but he's made massive amounts of cuts here, and sub 10% Hoagie, sign me up for that. Denny, I think, is a bounce back candidate. I think he might like this course all right. He can score when he's putting, so I'm looking at him a little bit. There was a few other. Daniel Berger withdrew. There's a few other guys down here. And actually, that dead range you were talking about, there are a couple of guys. Andrew Putnam, I think, might be due for a bounce back. He went on a massive run, career best run probably in his life. Adam Hadwin's down here too. He's a guy in good form. I like his profile. Irons were a little off in his last two, but I think he can flip that. My man, this is the dude that cost me right here in the Albatross. I had Connors in the Albatross too. I had that same core four. And then the only difference was the Albatross, I had Keegan as my fifth man. And then I had Keith Mitchell as my fifth man and Billy Ho. And then I had Alex Smalley in the Albatross, who putted his way out of it. Lost 7.5 strokes putting in 2 rounds. And he's not generally a good putter, but Bermuda is his best. So I think that bad an outing, he can bounce back. And he is a guy that can spike, gain 5 or 6 strokes with the irons. So I think I might give him another look. Now, getting down, there's a few guys. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with thinking maybe Kitayama makes another heater at 6,900. You never know. But down here, there are guys to be played. Webb Simpson, 6,800, was absolute fire on Sunday, made like 6, 7 birdies in a row. Johnny Vegas, he's got good back history here, and he's playing really well. He's making a lot of cuts lately. The funny part about it, Emilio Grillo last week led the field, I believe, in tee to green, over 10, and then lost 10 strokes putting. I said, he's got to be, I know he's a terrible putter, and I hate playing him because he can shoot you right. He can putt his way right out of a cut. But I think I might give him a shot, bounce back, because his ball striking last week was phenomenal. I mean, he was all over it. So I might give him a shot. Ryan Fox is interesting. And Molinari's my last guy down here I want to talk about. And then I'll let you take us home, Dave.
Yeah. Again, a lot of the same guys in the sub 7K range. Kitayama is gaining some steam, obviously, because of the win last week. So his ownership, as you can see, at least from first look, is spiking up there.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know where I'll be with him. I'm with you with Webb. I've always been a huge Webb fan. Webb is actually one of my favorite golfers on tour. Mm-hmm. And at 6,800, I will take shots on Webb this week because of the sign he showed on Sunday. And we are now in his region of where he lives and of where he really likes golf. And in a few weeks, we're going to be right there at Wyndham in just a few weeks, which obviously is his jam. So maybe he is showing a signs of an upswing, and I will take chances with Webb this week. Vegas, I'm going to have some shares of. Ryan Fox is actually less this week than he was last week. So I'll jump on the Fox train. I think he was 7K flat last week at API. Justin Suh has been playing some really good golf. I think he's like firing off something like 6 straight cuts now or something like that. I'm with you with Molinari, and Molinari right now is like just sub 2%, but I'm trying to remember who it was because I know it's not Kenny, because Kenny's last cash game cornerstone this week was Doug Gim. I'm trying to remember who had. Oh, Steve Bamford. Steve Bamford for his betting picks has Molinari as his long shot play this week, and Molinari has some good history here. Not to mention he looked solid last week with the T14 at API. Yeah. So Molinari is someone that I'm looking at this week, and maybe a couple other guys. Kevin Tway's been playing some really good golf this year. I think he's at 6,200, so he's possibly worth someone. Nate Lashley, I think, is 6,200. He could be a possible dart if you want to take a dart on Lashley. So there's obviously some plays. I think the 6K range, you want to look for specific skill sets. Who's the best ball strikers? Sub 7K, who can score on the par fives at sub 7K. And then the last thing I would look at would probably be who are the guys that can avoid those bogeys at sub 7K. But there's definitely some viable options if you want to try and do stars and scrubs.
Yeah, and exactly like you said. And what I would look for down here is, like you said, approach game, greens and regulation. That's a really, really high 72% Dylan Wu. I always never know which Wu to play. Brandon Wu, Dylan Wu. They're both actually profiles look pretty good this week. And you got your boy Eric Cole down here too. So there's some definite plays, and I'm going to play some extreme stars and scrubs type stuff. So jam them in just like last week. So that'll do it for this week. Appreciate you coming on with me, Dave. And you can catch him at the DFS Chef on Twitter. Me, I am at Billy Ho Sports on Twitter. So give us both a follow, and don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, tell a friend, and have a great day. And we will see you soon. Thanks for watching.